Hi readers, welcome to Novels with Nat. So it is the last day of April, so I thought today we could film my April reading wrap-up. I did finish a book just this morning, so it just made it into this month's wrap-up, so I'm super excited about that. This month I read 9 books, which is pretty average for me. I would typically read in the range of like 9 to 11 books, so maybe just a little bit on the lower end, but it's a pretty average reading month for me. I'm excited to talk about the books that I read this month. I'm gonna talk about them from lowest rated to highest rated and work my way up. I thought maybe we could start with a little bit of stats about the books that I read this month. So when it comes to genres, the majority of the books that I read were mystery thrillers, which is pretty typical for me. I tend to gravitate towards mysteries, and it has always kind of made up a large portion of the books that I read. So this month I read 6 mystery thrillers. That was about 67% or 2/3 of the books that I read. The next biggest category was literary fiction or like contemporary fiction. I read 2 of those this month, and then I also read 1 sci-fi. So I am trying to branch out my reading a little bit more, so I am happy to see that I got a couple, 3 books outside of the mystery genre, but hopefully that can continue to grow. Okay, then looking at my ratings, I had 1 2-star book, I had 4 3-star books, I had 2 4-star books, and I had 2 5-star books. So this month it looks like 3 stars made up the bulk of my ratings, which is pretty middle of the road standard. I didn't have any 1 stars this month, which is great. I don't often give 1 stars, but it's always kind of not fun to have a 1 star on your wrap up. I did find 2 5 stars as well, which is exciting. So overall, my average rating for the month was 3.6 stars, which I'm pretty happy with. It usually sits around 3.5 stars. So yeah, 3.6 for this month. Okay, so I have the books behind me that I read, and I thought we could go through them one at a time, from lowest rated to highest rated, and kind of work up towards my favorite. So because of Goodreads, you can't give half-star ratings, so my ratings are typically either rounded up or down. And so I'm usually giving whole star ratings, but in these kind of wrap up videos, I can get a bit more nuanced and talk about if I feel like a book was actually like a 3.5 or like a 4.5, things like that. Okay, so my least favorite book that I read this month was The Cousins. This was a book that I gave 2 stars. This is a YA mystery thriller. I feel like I probably didn't enjoy this too much because I don't typically gravitate to YA. I don't typically enjoy YA books. I just don't connect with the characters, and I just don't find them as entertaining or engaging. So in this book, we're following 3 cousins who don't have contact with their grandmother, but they get an invitation from their grandmother asking them to come and work at her resort for the summer. And as they get there, they start to learn sort of mysterious secrets about their family's past. So the premise of this one is what drew me in, and when I saw it at a thrift store, I decided to pick it up and give it a shot. But I just think the more and more I try young adult books, the more I realize they're just not for me. So I probably won't read too many more young adult books. I do have this author's other book, I think it's called One of Us is Lying. I have a copy of that, so I will give that one a shot and we'll see, but this one was 2 stars. So now I'll move on to my 3-star books. Another YA, we have We Were Liars. This one was like a super popular young adult mystery thriller years ago, but I just never got around to reading it. So this month I decided to read it. It was super short. It was like, I think the audiobook was like 6 hours. It's at 200 pages. So it was a quick read. I did enjoy it. It was okay. But again, the same sort of issues I have with The Cousins I had here. It's just the YA I don't too much like. I did kind of see the twist in this one coming from about, I don't know, halfway, 75%. You can kind of tell what direction the story is going. But overall, I did enjoy this one more than The Cousins. I feel like the twist was better executed and more well done. So I can understand why this book was so viral a few years ago. Yeah, so this one was 3 stars. So my next 3-star book is by Fredrik Backman. It is A Man Called Ove. This one I was super disappointed about because I read Anxious People earlier this year and I absolutely loved it. It was a 5-star book. So after reading this one and just not connecting with the characters as much, I was a bit sad about it, but this one ended up being 3 stars. This book, we're following a man called Uwe, who is kind of a grumpy older man, and it just follows him and the relationship that he forms with some neighbors in the neighborhood, and how he kind of progresses and grows as a person. It was interesting. I just didn't connect with the story like I wanted to, but I definitely will read more Fredrik Backman. I'm hoping to get to Beartown next month. I hear that's a pretty popular one that everyone seems to enjoy. So fingers crossed that I like it more than this one. So my next 3-star book is The Last One to Burn by Will Dean. This book I picked up kind of impulsively from the library because the premise was interesting, but I just don't feel like it really read like a mystery thriller. It read more like a survival story. I didn't really feel like there were very many twists in the book at all, which are kind of, to me, a definitive factor of the thriller genre. In this book, we're following a woman who's been taken and held captive, and then she finds out that she is now pregnant, and it's kind of a story of her trying to escape and survive this situation. It was fine, nothing special. It kind of reminded me of the book Room, very similar to that premise. So if you enjoyed Room, you might like this one, but I just gave it 3 stars. And then my last 3-star book for the month was The Arrangement by Robin Harding. This was my first Robin Harding book. I do own a few more, but I haven't gotten to them yet, so this was the first one that I've read from this author. I did enjoy it. The general premise of this one is a young, struggling student ends up going on to like a sugar daddy's website looking for someone to help her and to support her. And she meets a man named Gabe, who she ends up getting along well with, and so they create this kind of arrangement. But Gabe does have a family who he doesn't intend on leaving. And then one day a body ends up, and we're kind of falls into a story of like murder mystery and obsession. Pretty standard thriller. There was nothing too stand out or unique about it, but I did enjoy it. It was a fun time. 3 stars for this one. So this next book I gave 4 stars. The more that I think about it, it probably is more like a 3.5 star if I think critically about it, but it is The Humans by Matt Haig. I read The Midnight Library a few months ago and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to read another one of his books. And I didn't like this one as much as The Midnight Library, which I gave 4.5 stars. So in this book, we're following an alien who has come down to Earth to complete a task, and he is staying with a family while he's doing so. But he ends up sort of building a relationship with his family, and he's sort of investigating what it means to be human and the differences between humans and the life that's on his planet. It was interesting. It just wasn't as, I felt like, insightful as The Midnight Library, or I didn't connect with it as much. But it was a good book, and I still will read more from Matt Haig. This one, I should also say, was the one sci-fi book that I read this month. I've really been liking sci-fi more lately, especially ones that are more like light sci-fi, where it still takes place on Earth, but there are just aspects of the story that bring that science fiction element to it. So my last 4-star book for the month was Look in the Mirror by Catherine Steadman. This was my first Catherine Steadman book. I do believe she wrote Something in the Water, which I own as well, but haven't gotten to yet. But I saw someone else talking about this book and the premise sounded interesting, so I decided to go for this one first. So in this book, we're following 2 women. One of them's named Nina, and her father has just passed away. And she's just been told that she's inherited a large vacation home, which she was unaware that he owned. And so she goes there to kind of see what is this house and why did she not know about it. We're also following a woman named Maria, who was a medical student, and she was a nanny for rich families. And so she decided that she's going to take on one more nannying job to help her pay for her expenses. So she does take a job. She goes to this house, but the family is not there and they don't show up. And then creepy things start happening. I'm not going to say much more, but the mystery of what's going on in this story, I really tend to enjoy this style of mystery. Ones that are not so much like whodunits, but it's more a story about a mystery of what's actually going on in this house or what's going on in this story. You're not necessarily trying to figure out who is responsible for something. And I'm more and more gravitating towards this type of mystery. I enjoyed the writing of this one, and it has a few tropes in it that I really like. I won't say which ones because it kind of could be spoilery, but I would definitely recommend this book. It was a good one. I didn't see the twist coming. I would say this one was a solid 4 stars for me. Okay, now we're on to my 5-star books for the month. There were 2 of them. One of them I did enjoy more. So I'll go with the one that I gave probably more like a 4.5 star, but we'll just say 5 stars. And that is All Good People Here. This was my first book by the author. I think it's her only book so far. She does have another one coming out very soon though. This one is like a small town mystery, which I do tend to enjoy. Her writing style reminded me a lot of like Gillian Flynn, Sharp Objects type story, which I also enjoyed, so this was right up my alley. And this one is basically a woman who is a journalist, goes back to her hometown to care for her older uncle who is suffering from dementia. And she's also starting to get drawn back into a mystery that took place when she was a child, where her best friend was murdered. And so she's just kind of trying to investigate and trying to figure out what's happening. I felt really engaged in this one. The story really pulled me in. I don't often give thrillers 5 stars anymore. I feel like I've just read too many and I'm getting more and more picky with each one that I read. But I was excited to find a pretty good solid thriller. Like 4.5 stars is really high for me for a thriller, so I was super excited. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm definitely going to pick up the author's second book that's coming soon. The last book, this was my favorite book of the month. It was a 5-star read. I would classify it as one of my now 6-star reads, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I had not read this book until this month. I'm late to the party, but I'm glad to be here now. It was an awesome book. I also love the cover. It's gorgeous. So in this book, we're following a reclusive movie star named Evelyn Hugo. She's now older and she's decided that she wants to tell her story. So she starts working with a woman named Monique, who is like a reporter who she's asked to publish her story. And it goes through all of the events of her life from when she was younger and dealing with fame and relationships and loss and grief and family. It was so complex. You're also getting like newspaper segments from when she was in the height of her fame, which I found really interesting, and it just kind of pulls you into that like media spotlight that celebrities must experience. I enjoyed this book so much. I'm so excited to read more from this author. This was my first Taylor Jenkins read, but definitely will not be my last. Okay, so that's all of the 9 books that I read in the month of April. Let me know in the comments below what were some of your favorite books from this month. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye.